met her 18 months ago in Stroud at a demonstration we were doing outside Barclays Bank, and she happened to be there, and we struck up a friendship. Inspiring stuff. Just before I hand over to Meg, can I just sort of say that we had our own little Bentley a couple of years ago down in Symonds Yat, when Southwest Energy had taken out licenses and were threatening to frack down there. We joined up with, as most of you know, with the Forest of Dean, Frack Off the Forest people, and we had our own little Bentley down in Symonds Yat, and they withdrew their license as well. So we know what it's about. But during that sort of little blockade that we did, the Nanas from Lancashire, where they're at the moment drilling as we speak, they started up in Blackpool, up in Preston New Road. They came down and supported us, and they're doing day-by-day blockades on Preston New Road. And it's happening in Rydale in Yorkshire, and they're threatening to frack down in Nottingham Forest and down in Bolcombe, down in Sussex again. So it's really happening in the UK, and we need to sort of galvanise this sort of effect. So there's a piece of paper here and a pen, and we would like to take a bus up to Lancashire, to Preston New Road, to support those fine people who came down and helped us. But we can only do that if we've got enough people to fill a minibus or a bigger bus or whatever. So can I just pass this paper and pencil around, and anybody who's up for doing that, can you just put your name and phone number so we can tell you when the time comes. Thank you very much for watching. As you saw, Meg appears in that in several guises. So maybe I'll just hand over to Meg to sort of talk a bit, and then anybody who wants, we can have a little discussion about anything else, or then it's open house. Thanks very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it. It's now the 11th time I've seen it, and every time I'm just almost struck dumb with humility. The wonderful people that, you know, take on such a mammoth task to protect our land and our planet altogether. And I'd just like to take my hat off to all of you for clearly being people that care on these issues. It's not a local thing, although I'm from Bentley in Australia. We recognise that it's worldwide, and it seems to me that we have a family, worldwide family of people who all belong to the same tribe, all trying to protect the planet. And you know, thank you to all of you. I'm really proud to know you, and I'm proud to be able to share that movie with you, because it just shows a little bit of that kind of wonderful pride, if you like, pride and humility that can come from working together to with a community like that. But yes, I won't say too much more. If anybody's got anything you'd like to ask, that'll be, you know, please do. You're probably like me. You're probably struck a bit dumb. I was the first time I saw it. So.
What about the rest of Australia? About Queensland and stuff?
I hate to say it, but it's almost too late for Queensland. Having said that, it's not too late for stopping further damage, but they have really got their foot in the door down there. They've got established, up there I should say, they've got established gas wells production. It's a real problem. It is a terrible problem, and the people up there are just stuck with it, and they're really devastated. We've tried to do as much as we can to help, but it's really very entrenched, the industry there. The only thing is, as we all know, now that renewables are becoming so so cheap and so efficient and affordable and reliable, it's just really there's no need for anyone to depend on gas. There's nothing that gas can do that renewables can't do now. I work with 2 radio stations and do a lot of research into it with the renewable energies, and those storage options now are just brilliant. They've got the pumped hydro, the off-river small-scale pumped hydro, the batteries and the solar thermal, which all do a perfect job. They're all 24/7 operators. You no longer need coal and gas to operate a good, efficient grid, electricity grid anymore. They've missed their chance. The gas industry has missed its chance. But unfortunately, it's one of these awful dying monsters that's thrashing its tail and in its death throes, and we're sort of, stuck with it until we can beat it. And this is why it's so important for all our communities worldwide to get together now and stop it before they've done any more damage to the planet, to our climate, to everything, to the health of our people. It's huge. But there's not much we can do for Queensland, the existing gas fields, but we can certainly try and stop them putting in any more, particularly as it's no longer viable. It's just not a viable option for the gas companies now. But they're going to keep going, of course, because they've got all this infrastructure in place and they're going to use it till they don't use it anymore. A couple of encouraging things over in Australia is companies like AGL, which is Australian Gaslight. They are one of our biggest, one of the big 4 gas cartels. They have some time ago recognised that they need to get into the renewable industry, and they have actually cancelled their application to frack down near Gloucester, which is a valley which I'd say is equally as beautiful as the Bentley Valley, if not more so. So they've actually, because of public opinion, because of the movement, they've pulled back and said, okay, we won't take advantage of our licence. And they have a disgraceful working gas field down right near Sydney in Camden, which is quite literally under the homes of people. It's under school buildings. And what's worse is the government are actually allowing more homes to be built right close to the gas field. But fortunately, AGL, again, have said, okay, so we were going to close this industry, we were going to close the gas wells in 2020, we're going to now close them in 2017. So presumably they've got that well underway now. So, the pressure does work, but we just got to keep up the pressure. That's the main thing. The Northern Rivers, strictly speaking, is gas field free at last, because the government bought back the licences from the gas industry companies. Unfortunately, this doesn't really prove anything, because you can have governments changing their mind. They've got all sorts of reasons to say that circumstances have changed, and of course you can have change of government. So we're not going to be absolutely safe until they designate the area as gas field free, which they're not prepared to do. However, the Labour government, or the Labour opposition, have promised to do that if they are elected. So that's a good thing. On the rest of New South Wales, unfortunately, we've still got the Narrabri gas fields, which are under threat from Santos. So this is a wonderful area called the Pilliga Forest, which is unique worldwide. There's no other habitat exactly like it. It's so special. and they're just systematically wrecking it. And they are trying all the time to get the government to allow them to drill. They are currently replying to submissions against it, and I think it's an environmental impact study they've had to come up with to show that they are protecting the water. But of course we know what that means. It's just words. It was quite clear when the New South Wales chief scientist said that the water is going to be affected. The wildlife will be affected by the water and stock will be affected by the water. But this can be managed. This was her opinion. So, I mean, you know, it's all that double talk from government that we have to deal with all the time. But, so we're still struggling with that one. I'm hoping that Santos will think maybe there's not as much gas there as they had hoped, and that it's not economically viable, and hoping that they'll walk away. But we can't depend on that. So we do have people in place in camp over there at Narrabri, just in case.
And of course the other thing that's happening here at the moment, I don't know whether there's any danger of it happening in Australia. It would be good if it did. The collapse of Carillion, which has brought down a house of cards around it with all sorts of other companies that are associated with fracking. And so Third Energy have been refused to permission to drill in Kirby Misperton for the moment, until they can show that they are financially viable.
Oh, isn't that
So
marvellous?
that may be another avenue for you folks in Australia to go and start investigating their viability.
Yes, yes indeed. Like they did with Adani for the coal mine. They found that they didn't have the finance to do it, and in fact what finance they had, of course, was in the Cayman Islands, and you know, a terrible risk. And they were planning to put $1 billion as a loan to Adani, which is an absolute joke because there's no way they would ever get it back, in order to build a pipeline, a rail line from the Carmichael coal mine across to the Abbott Point terminal. Did you see that on the film?
I saw that, yes.
Wasn't that awful?
Yeah.
It makes me cry when I see that.
Yeah. Anything like that is heartbreaking, really.
Yes. Total devastation of the land.
And so much of this stuff actually is coming from the Cayman Islands. Companies with interest in the Cayman Islands. Funny that, isn't it?
Yes. You know, it's really dodgy. It really is dodgy.
Just like to say a big thank you to all of you for turning out tonight. Thank you very much. And great thank you to Meg for coming all this way.